Nothing but truth on AFR Talk.
Welcome back, Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth, AFR Talk. Yeah, I know. They are upset with some of the comments that he had made on Meet the Press. That would be Mitt Romney talking about how he's going to replace Obamacare. We'll talk about that a little later. Pre-existing conditions. And, yeah, he was politically, he's looking to go to the independents and make sure the scare tactics don't work. I see what's happening there. And he has opened himself up to criticism from those in the Tea Party and other conservatives who say, wait a second here. I thought you were just going to get rid of Obamacare and then we'll work on replacing it. These are the political days of our lives. And it's nice, though, at least that there's some substance involved. Because normally you get cartoons on crack or steroids when it comes to the coverage of this nonsense. And I'm talking about the exaggerations or false charges. I mean, the likes of calling somebody a felon or say they don't pay taxes. Oh, yeah, that Larry Flint guy's in the news, right? Isn't he a gem? Yeah. No, I'll pray for him. Absolutely. I used to say that a lot when I called myself a Christian. And I was like, yeah, I'm a Christian. I believe in Jesus and all that. Wasn't living, wasn't getting to know the Lord. And I'd say, I'd pray for him. I don't think I ever did. People like that, because I couldn't stand them. I found what they did to be just so sick and pathetic. They're parasites and acting like a parasite to the bottom feeders, looking for that. But supposedly now he's put out some information about Mitt Romney and attempting to get his tax returns and offering a $1 million reward for information on his taxes. It's always nice. They did other things. He's done other things in the past, of course, and I'm sure it exists in some way on both sides at a certain point, but I don't see a lot of it coming from the right. That said, let's go to someone who is a man who has some big ideas, and the ideas seemingly are the same as the old ideas. Meet the new boss, same as the old boss. Well, we did have Schwarzenegger out there, didn't we? Yeah. And Schwarzenegger came in, and in California, the People's Republic of California, it's very interesting because it's tough to get that budget under control when you've got the unions controlling who they elect. And in the state legislature, and obviously for governor, this is big. You go up against the unions, you're going to get drilled until there's enough will and education of the people to say, you know what, we got to stop taxing the top 1%. They're paying their third or nearly half of all taxes in the state. So we're going to tax them right out of here. We have the third highest tax rate on these guys and gals. Why would we want to do that? Well, we got to pay the bills, and government's got to be fed. And we can only increase it between 7 and 13%. But we'll say we're cutting a bunch of stuff overall. But 7 and 13% are the rates of increase. So Governor Brown was on Candy Crowley's State of the Union yesterday, and he was talking about a number of things, including Chris Christie. I'm not going to cover that. Bores me. He was also covering what the Democratic National Convention was all about, and the idea that you have to raise taxes, increase revenue to pay down the current debt and yearly deficits. And this needs to happen. Commenting to Candy Crowley, who said, well, we've tried that, and it doesn't seem to work. So does that mean there needs to be a change? Here is part of that conversation, and listen to what he says regarding the deficits and how much he knows about all this. This is just a great reply. Roll it.
Well, maybe I know too much about this stuff, but we're in a recovery, a slow recovery, and it'll keep recovering with any luck. And if the Republicans would get out of the way and let the stimulus and the investment go forward, such as the Democrats have proposed, we'll be better off. The opposite is to have faith in this supply side stuff where you lower the taxes on those who are doing very well. And they always say, well, it'll be on everybody, but it's always disproportionate on those who have the capital. But I'm telling you, that money, where a lot of these corporate profits go now, is offshore. And the biggest bang is to invest in our teachers, in ordinary workers, in bridges and roads, in the kind of projects that, and I think that's the theme. Now, I'm not looking for a blueprint or some kind of recipe. It's thematic. That's the way elections are decided. Both, how do you feel about the two candidates, and what is the theme? And I said the theme is a very honest guy who's trying to do his best after picking up a horrible mess from the last guy.
All right, so obviously a lot of accountability there. Do you like that? Because leaders embrace responsibility. They don't blame, and that's key. But Candy Crowley's wondering, hey, we tried the stimulus. We tried some things. This is Candy Crowley of CNN, State of the Union. It's not Fox News. But Candy Crowley just doesn't understand. Okay, well, but look, haven't you tried all this? It doesn't seem to be working. So how are you going to deal with it? And the explanation continued. Roll it.
This is just math now. If the people vote no, which they certainly can, then there will be automatically cut $5.5 billion from our schools and community colleges. That's 3 weeks of school, and we'll take $500 million from our colleges. It's really a choice, and that's really the wonderful thing about our initiative. At the end of the day, vox populi, vox Dei, the voice of the people, as they say, the voice of God. It's either take the money from those who have even more than we can imagine and give it to our schools, or not. And whatever it is, I'll manage it, and we'll make it work. One way would be better, but whatever way the people decide is the way we'll go, and that's the way it should be.
All right, so Candy's been asking this question. I'm going to post this up on the Facebook later on, and you'll get the full interview. But it's going to a vote in November, and there's also a big vote when it comes to sharing revenue, and pretty much what some have described, including National Review Online, has a wonderful article by Stanley Kurtz about how local governments are going to lose their power big time. It's a huge story. We're working on a guest tomorrow to cover that. Back to the story at hand, which is the people have to vote to either have these huge cuts or just tax the top 1%, or people earning $250,000 a year or more at a higher rate. Remember, they have the third highest rate in the country, and people are migrating out of the state, especially those in the 1%, because there are less of them. It's gone down, and that's the only way their share of the tax burden has gone down in sense of payment, because there's fewer of them. So they don't have as much revenue coming in from the top 1%. So it varies from anywhere from 40% to 49% of paying the tax bill, top 1%. Now, understanding this, Candy Crowley tries again and says, look, you've tried to raise taxes. It doesn't work, it seems. The results are in. So is it time to change? Roll it.
If you're looking at a state that already has the highest state sales tax of any in the country, that is in the top 3 of the state income taxes, and you want to raise that again, isn't the fact that you've had these deficits to contend with show that you're not growing the economy with sales hikes, which is essentially sales tax hikes or income tax hikes, which is essentially what Republicans are arguing, that they're counterproductive to the economy?
Well, no, it's just the opposite, because the economy is doing better than the rest of the nation. And even states like in New Jersey, where they're talking about cutting taxes, or some of these other states, California is actually doing better. We're getting 50%, more than 50% of the new venture capital investment. We're getting more than half of the investment in new renewable energy projects. So we're not perfect. How come we're so in debt? Mm-hmm. Because the previous people before I got here cut our car tax by almost $6 billion, gave a huge tax breaks to out-of-state corporations.
Okay, so because we didn't tax enough, and it's the previous administration. So there's the blame game. Now, I feel like I'm in that movie, The Wedding Singer, and the main Robbie's sitting there, not advising watching this movie, by the way. I'm just saying a lot of people can relate to this. And he explains what's going on, and he's on the plane, and he goes, Billy Idol understands. Billy Idol even gets it. And when I was hearing Candy Crowley, and I mean this as a compliment, Candy Crowley has figured out if you keep raising taxes and the situation doesn't change because it's a spending issue and a growth in government, and also it takes away the incentive to produce more because you're taking that incentive away because you're taking more. You're not being able to reap what you sow in the sense of what you've put in. You're not getting the fruits of your labor. That's going to have an impact of lowering the amount of people in your state to do that, and it's not going to produce the revenue. She's figuring out even the Laffer curve in the sense of, to a point, you can tax percentage-wise, but you're not going to get any more because people are either going to change the way they take their income or move or will hide it. And so Candy Crowley understands. Jerry Brown does not seem to think that is the way to go. But it is the argument that we're having right now. Because we heard a lot about hope and change, and I think we do in every presidential campaign. But this president really got behind it. This was his campaign slogan. Boom. Okay, fine. We have the record of the stimulus. The promises, well, weren't we supposed to be at like 5.5% unemployment at this time? Now we're at 8.1%. We spent all this money. We are paying upwards of millions of dollars per job. And these jobs are temporary because they're government jobs. You can go down to $250,000 per job. I mean, there's a range there. And I'm not trying to be disproportionate and saying, oh, I'm going to exaggerate. I don't need to exaggerate. So you spend $830 billion, $1 trillion with interest, and look what you get. You get a health care law that's passed, and you were told it's going to bend down the health care, and then if the insurance you have, you're going to be able to keep it. That's not true for 80 million Americans. So these are problems. Okay, you have a record, and the information's coming in, and the policies aren't changing. Candy Crowley understands. Why don't some people on the left ever get it? Oh, yeah, we just need more time. Well, we're out of time this segment. On the flip side, James S. Robbins, Washington Times foreign policy editorial writer, on the commemoration of 9/11. Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth, AFR Talk.